running. What's going on, guys? What is going on? For all those that know me, sorry, I go by the name of TechnicalCentreBacks, you know, aka Qualms. Everyone knows me as Kwame, Mr. KA. Yeah, I just thought I want to do something not different. It's an idea I've had for a long time, and obviously people that followed me beforehand, they know what I'm about. Obviously I love football, but I'm a defender by heart, and it's like there's always some kind of mistakes that I always see in the game, and it's like no one really, well, they talk about it, but then they don't really talk about it. And then in terms of the defenders, like obviously there's only some they'll big up, but for me, what I want this show, or what I want this video to kind of portray is just highlighting like good defenders and highlighting mistakes and like how you can avoid it, etc, etc. I know it's going to be hard, so it's kind of like a work in progress for me in terms of how I'm going to do it, because I don't just want it to be just here, or do you know what I mean, like in a studio. Like if I could, I would do it on a pitch as well, but then that involves me with other people and so yeah, I'm just going to take it how it is. I'm going to talk about my team first. Obviously, for those who don't know, Arsenal is my team. Arsenal will always be my team. Arsenal, I live and breathe Arsenal. And those who follow me on Instagram, obviously, you know that I love Arsenal to pieces. So it was our first home game. I missed it because obviously I was on holiday. But we played Burnley. And what I did like is the fact that what I have liked over the past few weeks is, you know, what the business that we've done in the transfer window, but not only that, the reinforcement at the back with David Luiz. Having David Luiz now, people are a bit skeptical about David Luiz. Some people say he's dead. Some other people say like he's quality on the ball. For me, I agree with the second people. I say that he's quality on the ball, and he's definitely something that we need, or that we could do with at the back, in terms of having that composure at the back. And after watching the game, you could see that even like in terms of his distribution, if you like compare him to like Mustafi, I know it's hard. Well, no, it's not hard, because you know Mustafi's not the best. But if you compare him to like Mustafi and that, you see like in terms of his distribution, you know, he always seems to find the man. He always, you know, an easy pass. He doesn't rush on the ball. He doesn't panic, and that's what you need, especially when you're working with like your Maitland-Niles. Maybe if it's Chambers one day, I don't know, Monreal, Socrates. Obviously him and Socrates, it looks like it's a good partnership, and I'm looking forward to watching that in the future. But I thought he had a decent game. There was a few like exchanges in terms of like certain man was trying to test him from the Burnley team, because Burnley is a very big physical side. We all know that. And in the past, or in the last, the Arsene Wenger era, coming towards the end of the stages, you could see like we wasn't mentally strong. We wasn't like fighters. We didn't have those leaders. But now it's like slowly but surely we're starting to get a little bit of fire in our belly, you know, with your Torreiras. Obviously Socrates coming in last season. Now we've got David Luiz, and like you can see like, so we're not pulling out of challenges, and that was something that we was known for. If you stick it on Arsenal, we're gonna crumble. So I'm just happy to see that certain men are standing up strong. Obviously David Luiz done his thing. But it was, the only thing is just that we conceded. It would have been so nice to get a clean sheet, but we conceded. And even like the goal from Ashley Barnes, like it was a lucky goal. It was a fluky goal. I think it started off on the right. Maitland-Niles was ran over to the right to try and close down the striker. Now for me, like obviously that stretched out the back line. I wish I could show. One day I'm gonna have this thing like Sky Sports, and I'm just gonna show you, do you know what I mean? And I have the thing, and it'll do this and it'll do that. But for now, I'll just have to talk through it. I think Maitland-Niles got pulled out of position. Obviously opened up a lot of space for the midfielders from Burnley to push forward. Because Maitland-Niles didn't close down quickly enough, or maybe even make a tackle, which could buy the defensive line some time, I think the striker, number 9 striker, he cut it back, or he passed it back into the middle, and then obviously there was a big gap between him and Socrates, or him and David Luiz, and it was just like a tame shot. It was a tame shot. One thing is like in terms of defender, or what people say when you're defending, they say, look, one thing, close down the space, number 1. Don't let him shoot, number 2. And then don't turn your back when you're blocking a shot. Don't turn your back on someone. It's so difficult, like, to not turn your back. I can understand it. Obviously, like the good defenders, like your John Terrys, your Vidic, and that, those men, the certain man that just they don't mind doing that, taking the ball. But you know, it's just a human. I don't know if it's just a human thing where you just turn your back. Obviously, I think it was David Luiz who turned his back on the shot, or Socrates who turned his back, and you know, it just trickled through to Ashley Barnes, and he managed to get a shot in. Like, it was a tame goal. It's a goal that, you know, it's a sloppy goal for us to concede, but it's just little things like that. Obviously, I'm not saying that I'm a world-class defender, but what I'm saying is just like certain things is, if you're a right back or left back and you get pulled out of position, like the rest of the defensive line has to either like pull across to cover you, to close down that space, so you've always got like a certain amount of space in between each gap, or the person who's pushing out, like Maitland-Niles, if you're getting out to that striker, you need to get out to him quickly, and you need to either make a challenge or even force him the way that you want him to. Like, it's either you work to your strengths or his weaknesses. And I think like he kind of just he got up to him, but then he just kind of just let him do his thing, and then that's how he managed to cut the ball back in to the midfield. So, you know, I was watching the Man United game. You know, I'm not comparing, but Wan-Bissaka, he is a right back. I know Maitland-Niles ain't born, you know, an out right back, but the thing with Bissaka was so good is that when he presses, he will press and then he'll make a challenge, and 9 times out of 10 he wins the ball. Like, so far he's been doing that for Man United through pre-season to now. So it's like, it's all about pressing the ball high or pressing the ball quickly, but then also making a good challenge. So then that gives you enough time to reset, and then you go again. So that was the only thing with the Arsenal. Yeah, with the Arsenal, obviously we conceded that goal, but I'm just happy. Obviously Aubameyang, on the other hand, Aubameyang's on fire. This is perfect. We're going up to Anfield on Saturday, and we got Spurs the other week or the next week as well. So we need to make sure that them men are firing. Aubameyang and Lacazette. And for me, it's like playing against Liverpool, we've got to work to our strengths instead of worrying about what they have. We all know that front three. You know what I mean? Salah, Mane and Firmino. But my thing is I feel like we're a bigger threat, or we can do more damage if we hit them where it hurts. And obviously, after looking at Liverpool, you know, I'll probably talk about the Liverpool game against Southampton. After looking at their games, the goals that they conceded or nearly conceded, it's all like a common thing in terms of they kind of leave, as much as Van Dijk's a great centre-back, as much as they're a good team, they leave a lot of space at the back, and I think that Lacazette, with the likes of Lacazette and Aubameyang, will give them problems, especially if it's like a foot race between Aubameyang and Van Dijk. And Liverpool like to play a high line because they press high. So it's going to be quite interesting how things line up, or how Emery's going to set up the squad to go against Anfield, but then also how Klopp's going to do it, because I'm sure Klopp's done his homework as well. But it always seems like whenever we come up against Liverpool, we have a good game, or we get spanked. So I'm not looking forward to that. Or no, I'm not looking. Not that I'm not looking forward to it, but I'm just not looking to get spanked. I'm not looking to get beat. Looking to get something out of the game, and I believe that the team that we have, we can do business. So I'm looking forward to that. That brings me on to my next game. Man City versus Spurs, the scum. Nah, I shouldn't even say the scum, but they are. Interesting game. Why? Because it seems like Spurs seem to always find a way to win, or not to win, but to just claw their way back into a game. You know, like, as much as I hate Spurs, I have a lot of respect for what Poch has done with the team and how he's set up his team. However, there's a few things, or the thing is, yeah, when you play against Man City, for me, like, when you see Man City, if you've watched them train, I haven't watched them train in person, but you know, when you watch it on YouTube or whatever, or you watch them, they do the same drills every single day. You know what I mean? They work it on the wings, they get it to the wide man, they whip it in, they cross it, and it's a goal. They practice this day in, day out. Now, I know they practice this amongst other drills, but it's like, this is like, they do it, so it's like, you know what to expect, but they do it so well and so efficiently, it's so hard to defend against. But it's like, when you're set up, because when I was watching like some of the goals, obviously the first goal was Sterling. Let's like credit Kevin De Bruyne and the ball that he put into the back post. Like, I know people have been comparing him to David Beckham in terms of his deliveries, like it's the same as David Beckham. Like, Bex is the guy, he is the top guy, but KDB, maybe in this generation of the game right now, he is one of the best deliverers of a ball. And you know, if you allow a person that much time that much space to whip in a ball, you're going to get punished. It doesn't matter who you are. But the one thing I will say is that as a defence, or as a defensive line, as a centre back for me, I have to make sure, if I know that I'm going to expect, I'm playing a team and they got some good ballers on the wings and they're going to whip in crosses, I either tell my left back, look, get to this guy, or my left back and the wingers, I say, you two work together, get to this guy, make sure he doesn't cross, make it as hard as possible. If a cross comes in, then alright, cool, we'll try and deal with it. Yeah, you're not going to be able to deny a team crosses ever in a game, but you can also like minimize it to them, you know what I mean, you can minimize it as much as you can. But it's the fact that they allowed the cross to come in, number one, alright, cool, it's a quality ball. Number two, put it on his on Sterling's head. But the thing is, when you look at it, you can see like the rest of the back three, I think is Davidson, Sanchez, Alderweireld, Walker Peters, yeah, they're all shuffled over towards where Danny Rose is. I know I said in the one before that, you know, if you're a wing back or if you're left back or whatever, if they pull out, then you shuffle across. But you also have to be mindful and you have to look at your position and who you're marking. And with that one, it was so basic, like so simple. I'm sure when Poch goes over it, or he's already gone over it already, that he will tell the players like, look, you have to pick up your man. If you see your man, Davison Sanchez wasn't marking anyone. I think Alderweireld was marking Aguero. But Aguero was sitting in between Alderweireld and Walker Peters. Yeah, and then Sterling was ghosting behind Walker Peters. So for me, if I'm a right back, I love left back. I used to be left back as well. But my thing is, I always have to be aware over my shoulder who is behind me. If there's a guy behind me, I'm gonna make sure I pick him up, and I'll tell my centre back, look, Aguero's there. Get goal side, drop goal side, so you know he's there, because you know Aguero's gonna make that run across. They didn't do that, and obviously Sterling scores the goal. That was the first one. The second one, same exact copy in terms of everyone shuffled over. Davison Sanchez wasn't marking anyone again, and this guy is a good defender, but I think positionally he's still not there yet. He still hasn't cracked it, or Poch is still teaching him the ways, and he's not picking up players. He wasn't marking. I think Alderweireld had Aguero, but what happened is, because they were kind of neck and neck, I think as the ball went wide, Aguero started making his run. So then it was a foot race. And then obviously with Aguero's low centre of gravity, man decided to barge Alderweireld, knocked him off of his balance. So then he gained a yard. And that enabled him to get in. And obviously like with the cross from, you know, KDB, we know he can cross, whipped it in. Obviously Aguero just flicked it in like it was nothing. Sanchez, if Sanchez was in the right position, he could have covered that front post. Or he could have covered his Danny Rose on the left. Do you know what I mean? But he was just sitting in no man's land. I think if you watch back the highlights, then you'll see what I mean. So it's just those little things that you have to watch out for. What else in the game? Obviously, for the goals that were conceded from City, it's just lack of concentration. From the first one for Lamella's goal, it was just too soft. And for me as a centre back, I'm gonna have a go at the midfielders, because you know the ball's come from midfield. No one's pressed him. He's just gone all the way to Lamella. Lamella's been allowed to run, and it's either, as a defender, you have to make that decision. Am I going to press you and try and press the ball and try and make a challenge, or am I going to sit back? And obviously, I think Laporte, he sat back. Lamella just used him as a guard and just curled it around him. It was a simple goal. Ederson should have done better. I can't lie. So for me, it's not even like a defender's fault. It's more. Yeah, it's more a team. As a team, it was poor, because you have to defend as a team. Definitely, you have to defend as a team. So I thought that was quite an interesting game. Obviously, the whole VAR stuff. Like, I don't want to go into. All I'm going to say is, how do we know these men even play? Have they played football? Number one. Number two, how do we know that these guys are happy? Like, they could be like miserable. They could have woken up and had a shitty day with their wife or their family or whatever. They're just miserable and they just want to take it out on someone. They could support the opposing team. Do you know what I mean? They might support Spurs or they might support Man City. How do you know? And then it's like, why is it that you're picking and choosing certain things to look at? You have to look at, if you're going to look at it, you have to look at everything. If you're looking at the handball in the last minute, you have to look in the first 10 minutes where Rodri got fouled. Do you know what I mean? By Lamella, and that should have been a penalty. So you have to look at it all, and that's the thing that they need to eradicate out of the game quickly, because it's going to cost teams points, and that's going to cause, or is going to cost teams like positions in the league, relegation, whatever, like promotion. You don't know, well, not even promotion, to win the Premier League. So this is like And this is what I keep saying, like, there's so much money, there's so much things at stake for each game. Each game means everything. So it's like, when you're trialing out these things and you're testing these things out, you need to make sure that they're right. Because if they're not, people are going to be pissed off. Teams are going to be pissed off. And yeah, I think, like, Spurs, obviously, they caught life. Man City, obviously, Pep was he was peed off. But he just said, you know what, that it is what it is. They got a point. Fair result, I guess. But we all know who the real winners should have been. I want to talk about the games that I've seen. Do you know what I mean? Because you can't get much from highlights, so it's very difficult. So I don't want to be honest with you guys. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to just talk about highlights, because you can't even get a good picture of the whole game. You don't see, you miss certain things. The other game, obviously, I watched the rest of the games, like Match of the Day and Sky Sports News, whatever. But another game that I watched, or I had time to watch, was yesterday's. Was Wolves versus United. Now, I watched this one with a lot of, not happiness, but a lot of optimism, because I know how Wolves are. Wolves are a very, very good side. And, you know what I mean, like, what they've done since they come into the Premier League has been no joke. And if you look at not even their stats, if you look at their previous results against, like, the top 6 clubs, they've taken points from nearly all of them. I think maybe 1 or 2 defeats, but they always seem to get a decent result, and especially at home, especially at Molineux. You know, it's actually a fortress. They turned it into a fortress. So I was expecting them to win, at least win or draw, you know. But, you know, with this whole new Man United, and Man United making these signings, key signings at the back, speaking of Maguire and Wan-Bissaka, yeah, these two great defenders. And I know, like, the whole price tag for Maguire, they're saying, you know, 80 million is too much, and etc, etc. But for me, it's like, in the current climate that we're at, the current market, that's the price you got to pay. If you need that defender, or if you need a player like that, you have to spend big in the Premier League. My thing is I watched them very closely, and I saw one thing that Maguire, the same thing that he brought, that I was saying about David Luiz, brought to Arsenal's back four. Maguire's brought a calmness to the back four as well. Very composed on the ball. Rarely gives the ball away. I think he gave it away a few, like maybe once or twice. You know, misplaced passes or under-hit passes. But apart from that, didn't really put a foot wrong. Seemed like he commanded the back as well. And made the right challenges when needed. Made the right blocks. His positioning was very good if you compare him to, like, let's say, Davinson Sanchez. So, you know, you could say money well spent, but it's still early in the season. Now, when you're talking about Wan-Bissaka as well, and you're thinking about his positioning, his ball retention, in terms of when he wins the ball, even if he loses the ball, he always seems to win it back. When he's going one-on-one against or head-to-head against a winger, what I like about him, and this is what I said earlier, what I like about him is he'll match you, he'll wait, and then he'll make a challenge, and 9 times out of 10 he'll win the ball. And do you know how much relief that is for me, like, as a centre back? If I know that my right back or my left back is doing those things, when I know that they're doing that kind of, that eases the pressure on us, because we know, look, if he's got a one-on-one, we know 9 times out of 10 he's going to make a challenge. It's going to give us enough time to reset, especially if it's on the counter-attack. And there was a few times where the ball was getting given away by the midfielders and Man United or whatever. Bissaka's out of position. He still manages to get back into position and then make a challenge. That's so key, and I think Man United got a bargain there. And I think if he went to any of the top 6 teams, he would have made them better. I just wish Arsenal put in a bid for him, because he would have been excellent for Arsenal. Love Bellerin to pieces, and obviously like Maitland-Niles, but Bissaka is the best, for me he's the best right back, and he is a better defender than Trent Alexander-Arnold. And I know, like, people saying, no, Trent is better. I can understand why you're saying Trent is better, but Trent is better going forward in terms of his delivery, his crosses, his attacking prowess. But in terms of your out-and-out defender, if I'm gonna pick a defender, I'm gonna pick Bissaka, because he's tenacious, you know, very flexible, very, you know, he adapts to everything, and he's very, very strong, and he's a very smart defender as well. And he's still young, so he's got a lot to live up to. But yeah, no, interesting game. Very, very interesting game. Obviously, Man United went 1-0 up through Martial, shock horror. The only thing I'll say about that goal is I think Rashford was sitting in that space. He was always sitting in the space just in between the midfield and the back line of Man United, and it's a very dangerous of Wolves. It's a very dangerous space because as a defender you don't know whether to press out like the centre back to go and pick him up, or the midfielders to drop a bit deeper and pick him up. That's something that you need to either communicate to your midfielder and tell them, look, you drop back and pick him up, pick up Rashford, or I'm going to squeeze up. But then that's obviously going to leave a gap behind me. So obviously it happens so quickly. And I'm not saying, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying these things like it's easy, but I know in a game scenario, it's not always like that. Rashford picked up the ball, managed to turn, ran a little bit, and then Martial made this diagonal run. Bolly was running with him. This is the thing that I don't get, or not that I don't get, but it's frustrating as a defender. Bolly was running with him, so you saw Martial's run, but somehow Martial just had that extra inch on him and managed to shoot on his left foot, or took a touch and then managed to shoot. Rashford played a good ball in, I can't lie. Behind Bennett, I think it was the centre-back. The other centre-backs played next to Bolly, but it's just those little small margins. And I know Bolly must have been pissed, because even I would have been pissed, because that's a soft goal to concede. You know, like I thought Bolly would have got across and made a block, because he did make quite a few blocks that game. But, you know, it was a good goal, well-worked goal by Man United. Didn't really see much apart from, or there weren't really much. I mean, the first half, Man United more or less, they had the upper hand, but then the second half, Wolves came back, and it was Neves. Now, obviously, he's not a striker, but my thing is, as a defender, if we're dealing with crosses or set pieces or whatever, we have to squeeze out. So we squeeze out as a unit. Everyone knows that. Squeeze out as a unit as quickly as you can. Especially when you're playing against quality foreign, not even foreign, quality Portuguese. If they're Portuguese or Spanish, yeah, midfielders, you have to beware. Especially on the outside of the box, because they've just been known. They do that all the time, especially in the Premier League. And there's even men that I've played with and they do that, because their text is on a different level. And Neves, we all know Neves scores, he can score bangers, do you know what I mean? His finesse is just on a different level. Because no one went out to him and squeezed quickly enough. Obviously it was a great strike. It was a great strike. De Gea had no chance. I think even Maguire tried to squeeze up to him, or not Maguire, maybe Lindelof. I think Lindelof ran out to try and block Neves' shot, but the way that he struck it, you know what I mean, he struck it with such accuracy and such power, there's not much you can do about it. So sometimes you just have to just applaud. But for me, I think that game, Wan-Bissaka stood out for me, but he's been doing that since pre-season, like I said, since pre-season and even at the start of the Premier League. And I think that those signings that Man United have made will actually save them from looking so bad. You know what I mean? They've still got a decent back line. They've got a back line, you know what I mean? Sure, if they're able to keep Shaw fit, obviously Bissaka on the right, and if they keep that partnership with Lindelof and Maguire, who knows what they can do. Their biggest worry for me, Man United, is probably just their strike force, because you can't really rely, well, I don't think you can rely too much on Rashford and Martial at the moment. Rashford's still young, and you know he's got a lot to learn in terms of being an out-and-out striker, and then Ollie's actually got to play him in that position, because he keeps moving him from centre forward to maybe the wings, and then Martial's too inconsistent. So there's a lot of things like Man United need. It goes for a lot of teams, but like I said, like I didn't watch all the games. The only other game I watched was Chelsea and Leicester. In terms of like defensive stuff, what did I pick up? There was a defender for Leicester. I actually liked him. He'd done a few bits and I was like, ooh, this guy's decent. So I had Pereira, Evans, oh gosh, Soyuncu or something like that. Some Turkish guy. It looks like it's a Turkish name. And Fuchs, even Christian Fuchs, I thought played very well. And this guy, the centre back, number 4, Soyuncu or whatever, Soyuncu, whatever his name is. Please excuse me in my pronunciation, but you know what I mean. Like I'm just being real with you. I'm trying my best. They definitely stood out for me. Fuchs, in terms of as a left back, that attacking left back, you know. The best form of defence is attack, they say, but I like Christian Fuchs because he will push forward, and he's not afraid to push forward. And I think Brendan Rodgers has set them up in a way that if Fuchs goes forward, obviously they're able to. I think maybe Ndidi, he might cover in or whatever. Someone drops in from midfield, so they're very organised when it comes to that. But there was a few times where Fuchs was just bullying them, and to be honest, the whole Leicester team was bullying Chelsea. But I just liked the way that they defended. I mean, it was kind of easy for Leicester because they didn't really have much to defend against. I mean, like, Giroud is not really going to give you much problems in terms of movement. He's more of an aerial threat, and that's the same with Tammy Abraham. As much as I like him and as much as he's done well last season in the Championship, this is a whole different ball game, and I feel like he'll probably do better next to next to another striker. But Chelsea have got their own problems in terms of their transfer ban, so it's going to be interesting to see what Frank does with that. But you know, I thought those two defenders stood out for me. Very calm on the ball. There was a few times where the Turkish defender Soyuncu, he was in a pickle. And usually, you know, certain defenders, obviously they say just knock it into Rosette, but he was very calm, and I think he must have like dinked it over like 3 or 2 Chelsea players' heads, and then they managed to counter attack from that. So it's just those little things. And then obviously with Christian Fuchs, he made some vital block. I don't know if it was in the first half. It might have been the first half. It was a vital block. Like, he came sliding across and blocked it with his left foot. I think it was against Kante, I think. But just those things, having that grit as a defender is so key, and being composed on the ball. So obviously that's what brings me to being like a technical centre back. You know, it's not just about being your hard, rugged, you know, your Vidic type defender or Yapstan type defender in terms of like just crunching into tackles, but also about being calm and collected on the ball. Yes, people. I don't ask a lot, but all I ask is that you click the link below and subscribe to my channel. Can't even say subscribe properly. Just subscribe, please, I beg. Actually, no, I don't beg, but still, it'd be nice if you subscribe. Alright, I'm going. Peace.